And we're a go. Welcome to the Writer's Life, place where you get the sight, sound, smells, taste of my particular writer's life, and where you get the truth. You also get Troy Silence of the Lamberts. Silence of the Lambert, my eternal sidekick. And you get me. We were just talking about, like, people like bemoaning stealing ideas and stuff like this. I just started a novel. I think it's going to be a novel. Real rot gut noir, right? I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. And it's totally about an ex-con. He like walks into a bar. It sounds like a joke. An ex-con walks into a bar, and like the bartender's hot, and her name is April, and like she's married to this guy he vaguely remembers after 10 years of being in the joint, and he's an older cranky dude, and he's wondering how this is working, and she like takes a liking to him, and like she's like. Gives him a job, gives him some money to go get a typewriter because he's a writer or whatever. And it's the postman always rings twice, right? It's the postman always rings twice plot. And I've done it already 100 times, and I'll probably do it again 100 times. And is it going to be that book? No, it's not going to be that book at all. But like that, like Double Indemnity. How many times has that been played out, and how many times does it keep working?
Strangers on a Train.
Exactly.
If you watch the Kurt Vonnegut Shape of Stories, and he talks about, you can write a story, a Cinderella story. And I mean, look, Disney remade it 8 times, you know what I mean? And it's the same story, but we keep going back. The Superman movies, all this superhero stuff is the same story.
Same thing. Yes.
But it doesn't matter because it's not the same stories. You have different characters, different people, different situations.
Different needs.
The underlying plot is the same thing. It's just like, when people talk about like Save the Cat. Like if you look at 90% of Hollywood movies, they follow that structure. Whether on purpose or accidentally, it doesn't matter. They follow that structure. Well, what does that mean? Well, it works. That's what it means. Is it works.
Yep. I'm watching the Jodie Foster True Detective 4 right now.
Oh, yeah.
The Jodie Foster one. And I'm like really into it, right? But it's kind of the same as the first one. It's like almost the same exact thing. It's like the same exact plot, but it's different. And it's in the Arctic, and I'm a sucker for Arctic noir. I'm a total sucker for
yeah.
And you use that total darkness, for 6 months a year, and the evil that lurks, and and like I'm into like episode 3, and so far I'm like, I have no clue how this thing is going to end. That's great. That means the writer
awesome.
That means the writer probably the Italian guy, Vince something or other, but he probably had no idea how it was going to end. You can always tell when someone, because if you know the ending, you kind of like,
when they're just feeling it out.
There. And that's a bummer. But like this, I have no clue. I'm like, how are they going to work this out without being painted into a corner?
Well, it's really funny that so when I plot things out, first of all, I plot out stuff, and all it is like writing prompts at the beginning of the chapter, and nothing is really set into stone. Because if I fix something, like I go back and plant a red herring or plant a clue or whatever, I do it in revisions. I don't do it in the draft, because sometimes in the draft, like I have an idea of how I think I want it to end, how I think it will end. And usually by about a little past halfway through, then I know what's going to happen. Right. But at the beginning, I don't know. And sometimes even then, when I get further than halfway through, I'm like, that ending isn't quite going to work. It's going to end a different way. And part of that is because you're telling yourself the story when you're writing that first draft. And I think what we've gotten away from, I think with some writers, is they've gotten into this thing where they have to plan everything. So planned, because what they're thinking about before they're even writing is they're thinking about the marketing and where this book's going to fit in the market. What am I going to do with this? And then I'm going to write the next one. And it has to fit in this series and stuff like that. And then what we end up with is a really formulaic book that's very predictable. And the truth is, those sell too. Danielle Steele sold lots of books, and they were all identical. So it works. But I mean, anyway, it's just really interesting the different ways that people plan. And you can tell, like when you're working with a mystery or whatever, how much the author planned. Like, especially if you're a writer, some of the general public, readers aren't going to catch that as quick. But writers, for sure, you go, he knew what was going on,
Right.
from the beginning.
And
Yeah.
I mean, so much depends on the characters. I mean, there's your plot, but the characters really drive the story, and their needs, their wants, their fucked upness or their lack of fucked upness. And I mean, that's what drives the story, and that's what fascinates me so much. It's like, oh, I've got these new characters.
People.
Yeah. And I'm like fascinated with what's going on so far. And right down to the guy who owns the pawn shop,
right.
And like and this just comes out like, he pulls out a cigarette and he's smoking in the pawn shop. And the guy's like, they let you do that? He's like, my shop, my rules. Just little things like that. That's like, we meet guys like that all the time, right?
Right. And then something about that guy. And because one of my favorite books on the craft is Story Genius by Lisa Cron. I talk about it a lot. And the reason is because really the essential thing that she talks about is character. So we, in life, we never walk into any situation as a blank slate, right?
Never.
Because we all have a past, we have our own beliefs, we have our own things, our own, all of our own stuff, our own baggage, if you will. And we usually come into a situation, when it's a situation like the ones we write about in novels, the deal is that your character comes in usually and they believe something at the beginning of the novel, and it's not true.
Right.
And by the end of the novel, they find out what really is true about that particular thing. And that's their character arc. That's their growth. And how they figure that out is usually through failure and complications and conflict. And that's what we write. That's it. So and we don't break it down that way, especially to readers, because they're like, whatever, I don't know what you're doing, whatever the heck it is, I read your stories, they're good. They don't want to know, all the details. But when you think about it, I mean, you have an MFA, I have extensive writing education. When you get there, you start to understand how stories actually work. I mean, you're like, oh, okay. And that it turns you into a better writer, and allows you to just follow those characters because that's what makes the story.
Right.
So,
yeah. For instance, our Book Blast number 2 is coming out. We're starting the
Book Blast number 2 is out. And Book Blast number 3 Book Blast 3 is coming out, and then we're starting the Kickstarter after that.
Right. So Bullet Holes.
The first 3 will be done.
Number 3.
Yeah. Yep. Bullet Holes number 3.
Right. And I started sometimes Troy will just tell me like, okay, we're going to do bullets next, or bullet holes next. Like you got to have a bullet hole in your story. That's all it means. And but it's like a challenge for me. And like, okay. And so I wrapped the story around a bullet hole, right? And I had no clue.
Oh yeah.
How that was going to go.
Oh yeah.
No clue. Zero clue. And it came out to be like what, 60 pages, 70 pages. I don't know what it is, but
yeah.
And I love that challenge. Like when someone says to me, like, come up with a story with a bullet hole in it. I can't. It'll bug me unless I write that story.
Yep.
Whereas,
me too. Like you can't stop.
You can't. And some writers will be like, oh, I'm not going near it because like I'm just completely stifled now and I could never, unless it's my own idea.
Yeah.
But like I look at it like I can't stay away from it. Now I got to write that,
Yeah. I got to write that. I got to
from that.
Well, and the truth is this is like so when people get writer's block, a lot of times I'm like, how much have you been writing?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I really struggled on this one part. I'm like, well, then write something else. But one of the keys is just to keep writing, because the more you write, it's addictive. It's like smoking cigarettes, this is what's hilarious. Like my girlfriend Holly she tells me, she's like, I got you hooked 100%, because she goes, every night when you go to bed, I put a nicotine patch on your back and I take it off real quick before you wake up in the morning. And if you ever leave me, you'll be all anxious. You won't know what's wrong with you.
That's great.
You just have to come back. I mean, what I mean?
Yeah, so, you got to use that in a book.
But it's part like this is writing is an addictive thing.
Yeah.
So the more you
Oh, it
do it,
certainly
the
is.
more you want to do it. And
Right.
that's part of the deal is like the more I write, the more I want to write, the more I write down ideas and
Right.
develop those, the more ideas I have.
Yep.
You know,
Let me ask you a question. Let
yeah,
me, not to totally interrupt your thought, but along those lines, because this is the writer's life. I mean, if like I woke up late today, I woke up at 8:30, and I'm like, oh shit, because I like to be at my writing desk by 7:30, right?
yeah,
And
me too.
I used to say like, I get more done before 9 o'clock in the morning when normal people have normal jobs or whatever. Anyway, um, I get this feeling inside my gut, like, wow, I'm not creating those words right now, and it doesn't
Oh
feel
yeah,
right. Doesn't feel right, and it wasn't until I use my like terrace, and like when it's nice out or whatever. It wasn't until I had my setup going, and then I started back in on the story, and I got a page or two done that I was like, okay, I can breathe
yep.
again. I can breathe
Now
again.
you're back
I'm
in.
home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I know Hemingway used to say like that's an obsession, and an obsession is not good. Um,
Well, I don't think all obsession is bad.
right.
And for some people, okay, so there are some people that I believe have a certain amount of addictive personalities. Like they get addicted to things easier than others. So it's
Right.
why some people will, they can have a drink now and then, it's no big deal, and other people are
Right.
alcoholics, right?
Yeah.
It's
Some
because
people don't know when to stop.
those people, they need it and they
Mm.
can't control it, you know? So there's people that like I wrote a book with a guy who was he was a CEO of a big company, but he was a binge cocaine user. He'd be fine for a few months. He'd get
Right.
bored or something would trigger him or whatever, and he'd go on a cocaine binge and
Yeah.
spend
Bye bye.
all his money,
Yeah.
for like
Yeah.
months on end, and then come back and go to rehab and all that everything. Well, what he ended up having to do eventually was he had to replace that addiction with something else.
Right.
Like he couldn't just quit cocaine because
Right.
he would still be bored. Those triggers would still be there.
He
So
has
now, I
to.
mean,
Yeah.
he started a charitable foundation. He races cars. He
Good.
has a
Yeah.
UFC gym for kids after school as part of his
Excellent.
foundation. I mean, so,
Very.
but those are
Yep.
obsessions for him, but they're a
Yep.
good obsession. So I
Right.
think writing could potentially be a bad obsession if it becomes bad for your mental and physical health or your relationships.
It does.
You know?
But on a simpler level, all that is true. But on a simpler level, to go back to like the drinking metaphor, for instance. Now I can have a couple of beers every night, but here's the thing: I know when to stop. I've always known when to
Hmm.
stop and to limit myself and think like, well, I've already had three. I think I'm going to stop and eat, read, go to bed,
Yeah,
whatever. And that goes for even weekends, right?
right.
And I think a lot of writers will get into what they call writer's block, so-called writer's block, because they'll have a good day of writing and they won't stop. They don't know when to stop so that they have enough
Yep.
gas to go on the next day and the next day and the next day. Like you don't shoot your load on a Monday and then you can't work for like 5 days.
Yeah.
Like I
Oh,
do a certain amount of pages, certain amount of words, and brother, I quit at 4:30. It's sometimes it's 4:45 or 5, whatever. You get what I'm saying. But
yeah.
like I quit at a certain time when I know what's going to happen the next day, and beautiful.
Yeah.
Like you
Leave
got to know
yourself a
when to stop.
cliffhanger, make yourself, because part of that too is so like I've seen, we're coming up on November, and NaNoWriMo, which is now dead,
Yeah,
the organization itself is dead, and
yeah,
that's, you
yeah.
can, whatever. We're not going to talk about that.
Mm.
Because I don't want to. But but
Yeah, I don't get it. I never did it.
the truth of the matter is like I've done it before, but I did it after I was already pretty much writing full time. So that word
Right,
count was my daily word count anyway,
right,
right? It wasn't hard. But a lot of times what happens is newbie writers go into November, they're like, I'm going to write a novel in November, and that's the only thing they write all year long.
right.
Because instead of using Nano for what it was good for, which is developing a writing habit, What
Right.
they used it for was this lofty goal that was really too much for them. I'm like, if you
Way too
have a
much.
full-time job, maybe
Yeah.
you can only work, maybe you can only write 250 or 500 words a day.
Sure.
It doesn't matter. Then write
Wow.
what you can write and still maintain your energy for the next day.
Right.
And the next day and the next day. Because it's true. You can, and everybody has their own pace. So you'll read about these writers that write horrendous amounts of words and all that kind of stuff. And you're like, whoa, there's no way I can do that. Well, then don't.
Don't.
Stop
Yeah, you
comparing
probably
yourself to
shouldn't.
somebody else. You
Yeah, you
probably
probably
shouldn't if you
shouldn't be.
can't do that.
Yeah.
You
In fact,
don't have to write a certain
right.
amount to make a living. That's not the deal. It's not about writing a certain amount of words. And if you write under that, well, there's just no way you're going to make it unless you just
Right.
write nothing.
Right. Oh, I can see Boise. I can see Troy, Silence of the Lamberts. In fact, it's different if you're like contracted and they're like, here's 10 grand, but I need it in 2 weeks. I need 50,000 words in 2 weeks. I've done that. I got hired to write an X-Files book, which I've been throwing out in dribs and drabs on Substack because there's licensing rules with the Fox network or whatever. And they're like, here's 10 grand, but you got to give it to us. The Zon was doing this. And they're like, when they were going to do TV spinoffs, which lasted all of 5 minutes. And, and it was a hellish 2 weeks. It was like, that's all I did. And it was like, I have kids, the kids are taking second, unless there's an emergency, like, the girlfriend or the wife at the time or whatever it was. No, I had a girlfriend. Yeah. It was like, sorry, I just got to do this, and I was like, this is work. I'm like, this is like real work. This is like, being a writer for Hollywood and you're in that office and you got a deadline, you got a show that you got to write for. Like, that's work. Like,
you're in the writer's room. Yeah, you got to do it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've done stuff like that before too. And I mean,
I know you have.
In some ways, it's great because you prove that you can do it. But in other ways, it's hard because it saps your energy for what's next.
Yes, it does. It does.
Which is another reason for indie publishing is just, instead of traditional deals, is just you're not dealing with deadlines. You're not dealing with some of the things that you have to deal with under their contract terms that we're under our own contract terms. Now, that being said, you do need to be self-disciplined to be an indie author. Like, there's no, you can't just be like, today I only got 2 words. Like, I'm one of those guys that, hey, I believe in writing when inspiration strikes. And luckily for me, inspiration strikes every morning at 6:30 when I sit down in front of my computer and write.
That's right.
That's what I'm supposed to write.
Right. Troy brings up a great point. If you're inspired that day, that's a gift. That's icing on the
bonus.
cake. That's a bonus. You have to be prepared to write when you're not inspired, which can be half the time. It's just, like, I'm sure, the bricklayer doesn't feel like going to work on Monday and laying brick, but that's what he does. It's not like, I don't feel like laying brick today, boss. Is that all right? And can I still get paid? No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. I tell people it's like, your doctor doesn't, or your surgeon doesn't come into the operating room and goes, damn, we got this surgery scheduled today.
Yeah,
I got surgeon's block. I'm just not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. And I'm like, my fucking gallbladder needs to come out, dude.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, come on.
Sorry, dude. Just, I'm not feeling it. Yeah.
I'm just not feeling it.
Yeah.
No, that's not the way anybody's other job works. So if you're going to do writing as a job, I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, you have to treat it like a job. You show up when it's time to work. And, I tell people all the time, we joke about all the time, I can work in my pajamas, I can drink scotch before noon, but truth is, no, I can't. Not really, because it's a job. I get up and I get dressed and I go to my office. And that's where I write, right? That's the way it works. It's not, I don't just do whatever I want, whenever I want. I have a certain amount of freedom. Vince and I were talking about it before we started. We're like, if my doctor wants to schedule an appointment at an odd time on a Tuesday, I'm good with it because everybody else is at work. I'm happy
Yep.
with that, right? That works
Yep.
fine for me. So I do have that freedom. We have a certain amount of freedom, but we also have a certain amount of like obligation to ourselves and
Yep.
our own creative time and our own writing time.
Yep.
You know?
Right. I was telling Troy in the green room, that's how we get onto this. I said I slept till 8:30 this morning, and I, like I mentioned, well, I mentioned it earlier, you know, and of course, that would have meant I would have been late for work had I had a normal job, and I probably would have
Hmm.
gotten spanked a little bit, for it or whatever. But no one's tougher on me than me,
Yep.
and like I just said, I was like all screwed up until I was able to like, you know, don't let it happen again, Vince. You know what I mean? One
Yeah.
of those. Of course, it
Yeah.
will because it can, and like I think on Monday, like, and now we're talking like perks of the job. Like on Monday, I got up and I wrote for 2 hours, and I was like, you know what? I'm tired still. I'm gonna lie down for an hour, and I did, and
Yeah.
like I got an extra hour of sleep in, and I was like, oh, I feel much better. I couldn't do that,
Yeah.
with another job, of course, and but you still have to be as disciplined as possible,
Hmm.
and then, but like that's why I say you also have to be disciplined about knowing when to stop for the day and to
Hmm.
let your brain rest and do something else,
And know when
and
to take a break. You know, I mean,
yes,
Douglas Adams, he took baths whenever he needed inspiration. There's all kinds of stories about people that do different things to like break up their day, go for a walk,
yep,
take a shower, whatever. And it
yep,
refreshes your brain because it lets you focus on something else. Then you can come back to writing because you have fresh ideas. So
right,
know when to take a break. It's okay to take a break. It's not that we're saying, oh man, you got to sit down at 6:30 and you're not done till 4:30 and man, if you take a break, you're screwed. That's not it at all. If you have a
yeah,
lot of freedom, but you just have to understand you need a lot of discipline too. And
yep.
there's so much other stuff like we talk about all the time that you have to do besides writing that you need to schedule your
Marketing,
writing time and your marketing time and your
yep,
whatever time
yep.
because it's just not easy. Just not easy to
Podcast,
do all of it.
podcast time.
Podcast, yeah,
Um,
podcast time.
yeah, I probably spend, when it comes down to it, I probably spend out of call it an 8-hour day. It's not really an 8-hour day, but like I probably only write maybe 2 to 3 hours of it, are
Hmm.
probably creative moments, maybe another hour for like editing the story before it or something like that.
Hmm.
So 3 to 4 hours maybe, but the rest of it is, like I'll work out, maybe I'll go skiing, maybe whatever, definitely go for walks and stuff
Hmm.
like that. And then all that marketing, like
Yeah,
which takes up a big chunk of the day.
yeah.
And I still cannot get myself to use a virtual assistant, which is really a mistake, folks. You really got to get used to doing that because they're worth the weight in gold. But I'm such a freak. I want to do it. I mean, I even pay for a service with my website where they're like, "We'll do all your edits for you. We'll do all that. You're paying for it," and I don't use it because
Mm.
I'd rather do it myself.
Yeah, see, I only use it for certain things, and then but the thing that I have done is built automations that really do help me out a lot,
Yeah, that's good.
as far as at least getting drafts of things and stuff like that done for marketing and things like that. But I mean, it's still an imperfect system, but at least I have to do less. I have to spend less time on it. And virtual assistants, like, man, if you have enough things for people to do, it really can save you a lot of time.
Mm.
As long as obviously you can afford it. But you
You have to be
need
able
to
to afford it.
know how to do those things anyway, because it's kind of like having an accountant but not knowing how to balance your checkbook. Like
Right,
that guy's probably going to rip you off if you're not
right.
paying attention. I had a social media person that I had hired, and she made a bunch of mistakes in some
Yeah,
of the social media stuff I was having her do, and I was like, man, I just really can't have that.
yeah. That's the
I
problem.
have to. I need something different, something
Yeah.
better. You know, so it's a matter of trust too. Have to get people that know what they're doing.
Right.
You know,
But I
so.
think next year I might hire an assistant, a part-time assistant. It doesn't have to be full-time or whatever, but a
Hmm.
part-time assistant who I can sort of like check in on, like if they want to work in my office a little bit, or however, you know, it'd be done. But like, I want to be able
Mhm.
to, you know, watch them and look, you know, look at the progress and make sure they're doing it right.
Look at what
Yeah,
they're doing.
you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. All that
that
kind
would
of
help
stuff.
maybe for next year. I'm playing with it. I've been playing with it,
Yeah.
this idea, for a few years, but I think
Yeah.
that might work out. I don't know if I mean, they actually, you know, you could go to the colleges and the universities, and you can.
Well, yeah, and there's a company now that they've got some vetted VAs specifically for authors. They're in the Philippines, but they've
Yeah,
trained them, to do author things, specific
yeah.
author tasks. And what it really is they're doing, like, you give them, okay, I want to change all my back of the book
See, stuff like
material
that.
to
Yes,
this,
yes,
right? Because I've updated my bio or whatever. And all they do, I mean, you're giving them the information. All they're doing is going through and updating it
right,
for you or whatever.
right.
Or you say, I want you to create, they're a graphic designer. I want you to create graphics for these 10
Or a
social media
Kickstarter.
posts. And so they ship you back some graphics. Or, I want you to set up this Kickstarter for me. Here's all the material for it. I just want you to go through that
Right,
manual process of setting it up that I can't automate and that takes me a lot of
right,
time to do. Right. And so it's more about doing things like that that you can outsource easily because the person doesn't have to know you or your business that well. They just have to know how to do certain repetitive
mm,
tasks. Here, this book is going to be up. I want it up for pre-order on Amazon. I want it to be available on this date. I want it up for pre-order on Draft to
right,
Digital. I want it to be available this date. And they take the files and the stuff that you've
yep,
already given them. So you've already done that part of the process, and they just do that manual
right,
uploading thing where you're like, oh, God, what a pain in the
right,
butt to do,
yep,
right? So it's more about that than having somebody come, and do certain things for you, like that they have to know a
right.
lot
You got to
about you or
train them,
whatever,
some of
you
them,
know.
but if you don't have to train them, even better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the ideal candidate, I think, would be a younger person, who's very enthusiastic and wants to be a writer themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
and are willing to learn while they work. And
Yeah, they want to learn the business
right, in
side
exchange,
anyway,
and
you
also in
know.
exchange for the cash. You give them cash, of course, but it also, like, maybe you look at a story of theirs every now and then and give them some pointers and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like a painter's apprentice. Um, you know,
Yeah.
um, I think that would be like the ideal candidate for that type of thing. Take care of your
Yeah.
books.
Almost like an
Yeah,
intern. Yeah, almost like an
right.
intern. You take care of this stuff for me, stuff like that,
Yep,
and I'll help you out,
yep,
I'll help you do the
right.
things you
And
really want
also,
to do.
like, I mean,
So,
this is pathetic as a businessman, but I know damn well that I have money just being lost out there from publishers who have gone belly
hmm
up and who are still collecting on, like, audio editions and things like that. And who knows, maybe even paper editions, and former previous paper editions. I know damn
hmm
well they are. And I never see it done, but I should have somebody hounding that person. Give me my money. You know,
that chases
yep,
them down.
all that.
Yeah. Almost like a
Yeah,
manager. I mean, you almost need a virtual assistant manager. And the thing is, like, I've met some couples that do this. Like, if the writer is successful enough, okay, you can retire your wife or partner or whatever, and she
right,
does that if she's into that
right.
type of thing, But that's, man, I mean, that's a big commitment, and you have to work together, and you have to decide if you can do that and still
I don't
maintain your
want to. Yeah,
relationship.
I don't
Some
want to
people
do
can't.
that. Yeah,
You know, that's
yeah,
complicated. But you have somebody that you can trust that's a partner, whether it's spouse, kid, aunt,
right.
uncle, whatever, but or somebody that's a friend of yours that you can give some cash and they can help you with all those tasks. I mean, hell,
Did
man,
you
do it.
did you happen to
Do
see
it.
that the Billy Joel, like, it was like a 3-part series on Netflix? I think it was on, no, it was HBO Max, I believe. Um, it was
I
like a
didn't see
Billy
that one.
Joel, like, all about, his career, from birth to where he is now, right? Now he's like a 75, 76-year-old dude. And like in the 90s, I think, or no, it was the 2000s. It was later in his career. He had, okay, backing up a little bit, he had hired, after he and his first wife broke up, he had hired her brother to become his manager. And I don't think the guy had professional experience at it, but the guy was really enthusiastic about it. He was still a businessman. And she warned him. She's like, don't do it. Don't do it. The guy's going to screw up everything. But he was like, oh, whatever. I'm making $1 billion. Like, how bad could it be? And so it comes back. Like, the guy stole something like 3/4 of his money. It was just gone. And Billy Joel at that point, like in the 2000s, he was like, I'm going to sort of retire and just write like concertos and, just play selective concerts when I want to and stuff like that. He had to pull up his bootstraps and go right back to work. Like, luckily he was popular still and he could make the money up, but it took years, and like, that's what can happen with bad managers. Same thing happened with Sting.
Well, yeah,
I think it happens a lot in the music.
That's why you got to keep an eye on those things. Well, it happens a lot in the music business, but here's what's interesting about the publishing business is we're like a few years behind the music business. Like, music went to streaming and all that kind of stuff, right? And authors were like, that's interesting, man. And all of a sudden, KDP Unlimited, Kindle Unlimited comes along, and all these other subscription services, and we go, oh, that looks a lot like streaming music, So it's almost like streaming books, and streaming movies, and so everything's kind of headed that same direction. And so you see that, like, publishers have ripped us off for years. We know it, and that's one of the reasons we've gone indie. Well, that's a lot of the reason that a lot of musicians have gone indie and gotten their own stuff back. Taylor Swift gets all the rights back to her own catalog. Now, of course, she's got pull. I mean, that a lot of musicians don't have, but still, a lot of musicians have gone in and said, hey, I want my intellectual property back because I'm going to do this myself. Because I don't want a record label and an agent taking a big chunk of my money, and a lot of times ripping you off. Agents is another thing that, I mean, not all agents are bad. Hey, man, Chip McGregor, love you, dude. But you know what I mean?
He's gone.
Like, not all agents are bad. Yeah, he's retired anyway. But I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's good agents out there and that don't rip you off, but there are some shyster agents that will pitch themselves as an agent, especially to new authors who don't know any better. New author signs up for a contract, and all of a sudden they're getting pennies, and their agent is just rolling in it. And their agent is putting their fingers in every little thing that they do. And I'm like, your agent does not have to be involved in every deal. That is not the way it works, because you're just sacrificing money. That's all you're doing is sacrificing money. So anyway, it's one of those things. Like, we know that managers rip musicians off, agents rip authors off. There's always somebody that's taking advantage of people that want to be creative and that don't know any better. So, hey, caution, better part of valor there. And watch your assistants if you have them. Watch your managers if you have them. And keep an eye on what they're doing, because you don't know. If you end up missing a whole chunk of money, getting it back from them is almost impossible when they're driving a Mercedes.
I use Megyn Kelly as an example. The most best-selling author to come out of Albany, New York, is not me. It's not William Kennedy. It's Megyn Kelly. And how many times did she get fired from, like, NBC and Fox and whatever? Like, she kept getting fired. So finally, she starts her own thing, MK Productions, and she's just killing it. And now she's creating other shows. Emily Jasinski's joined her and whatever. And a lot of people in the, they're media, they're writers, they're news people, more news than they don't write fiction, but they're just thriving in the indie community and on Substack and podcasts or whatever, and just absolutely thriving and keeping all the money for themselves. And it's just like, why would they go back?
Well, yeah, it's just like all the late night comics that are getting fired. They'll all band up. They'll start their own network or YouTube channel or whatever the case may be. and they'll keep they'll have listeners
Yeah.
and what people that watch them. Of course they do. They've been on, they've been on television for years. They got tons and tons of fans and followers who will just find out where they are and go there, and then they'll keep all the money. The only people that are hurting themselves by doing that is the networks. It's just they're being not smart because they're not understanding that it's not only so. Like when I would watch creators get ripped off by a publisher, I would then not submit my work there because I know, like, if they got ripped off, I'm going to get ripped off, right? So we don't submit to those publishers. So it hurts them in ways they're not even thinking of. There's going to be other comics that are going to be like, I don't think I'm taking my show there because I can create it myself, put it on Netflix, put it on YouTube, and keep all the money myself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, what's his name just got fired for Jimmy Fallon, not Jimmy Fallon. Kimmel just got Kimmel got let go, and God rest his soul for making a shitty comment about Charlie Kirk. But what a lot of people don't realize is Kimmel wasn't bringing in the numbers, and it was just sort of a last straw thing. It was like, well, you're not bringing in the numbers, we're going to let you go. But he will go independent, and he will bring along with him his tribe, and he will do much better. Like he can run all the show that he wants. What my favorite show is? My favorite show is not anything that appears on network television. My favorite show is Matt Taibbi's Racket News with Walter Kern. They do a 2-hour show twice a week. It's my favorite podcast, and that's like my favorite show. Aside from like watching stuff on Netflix or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And I don't have a problem with paying them $7 a month. In fact, if anything, they're just giving me what I want, but they might not give you what you want, but they give me what I want, and I think it's a great thing. If it weren't for independent media, it wouldn't exist.
Well, and one of the things is this is like part of the reason networks struggle with shows like his, because he has a big audience. Okay, he's not maybe bringing in the numbers they want him to bring in, but he has a big audience. The reason their expenses are really high,
very high.
But doing a YouTube show, basically they need an office with a few decent microphones and a half decent camera. And
how much is this costing you right now?
Right?
Other than your time.
And so other than my time, I already have the gear. It's costing me nothing. Microphone. Power, 17 cents an episode or something in power. Who knows? Jeez. So it doesn't even matter.
No.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make any difference in the world.
Not at all.
So, anyway, that's part of it is the expenses. The same thing with publishers. Publishers have all these expenses. They got fancy offices in New York or Seattle or wherever. And like, I can do the exact same thing. And I got an office in my house. And like, we're closing on a house. And the new office is actually going to be pretty damn spectacular for what I need. You know what I mean? And I'm like, and for what? I'm already paying the house payment. I'm not paying any extra for the office. I've got all the gear. I'm not paying anything extra for that. And I'm still a publisher.
And if anything, it's a tax
write-off. So it's those expenses are crazy. Yeah, you write off 300 square feet of your house every year. You know what I mean? And so anyway, it's just interesting to me that you're still a publisher. You still have the same power of distribution, all that kind of stuff because of independent media, but you don't have the expenses. So that's why we can go, okay, well, I can keep 75% of my royalties because I don't have those expenses that publishers have.
Right.
Awesome. So do that.
Yep.
Do that.
Funny because I do have a new agent and she is shopping one of my books. I always like to keep my hand in whatever. And and she's like, Kensington was really interested, but they inevitably passed on it because everybody, even at my stage of the game, you do get rejections. So just remember that. But because he said, I'm not crazy about Kensington anyway, to be honest. They've always been kind of like a throw it against the wall and see if it sticks company. But in any case, she said he thought it had too narrow an audience, the book. And I was like, okay, but see, that doesn't matter for me because, like, if I were to publish it, it doesn't matter if it has too narrow an audience because it will connect with that narrow audience and make money.
Yeah.
You know, if that were even the truth,
Well, yeah.
you know, like they don't know if it has a narrow audience or not. You know, they don't know shit. But
Well, that's part of the problem is publishers spend all that time in front of Congress telling us that essentially they don't know
right,
what they're doing. Right? They don't know how to sell books. They only sell the major names in the only marketing they invest is the major names in their list, in their category. They don't majorly invest in anybody else. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to sell books. And the thing is, like, as an indie author, like, I only need 300 people to like that book
yep,
and tell a few of their friends. And, that doesn't land me on any bestseller list. That doesn't land me anywhere except that it pays my bills. You know what I mean? So I don't need to get 10,000 sales of that book. It's nice if I do, but I don't need that for survival because I don't have a penthouse in New York.
And what the
you know what I mean?
good folks listening, some of the good folks listening don't realize is that, say, Kensington bought that book for $10,000, which means I probably would have to sell like around 30,000 copies, around that, give or take $5,000, right?
Something like that.
But if it only sells 10,000 copies, you're done with that company. You're finished. You're never, and in fact, it's going to look terrible for you going forward.
Yes, you can get blacklisted, because other publishers will say, well, you didn't earn out on that advance, so we're not going to give you an advance. And especially something as small as $10,000. And imagine the days, we know the days when you were getting $250,000 advance, but then you didn't earn out. Well, dude, you are screwed. Like, you're literally screwed, except that now that we have indie publishing, you're not screwed because you can just go find your tribe wherever they are and sell books to them.
That's the way it works. It's very simple and it's so effective, and it's 2025. Hey, before I let you go, because we're getting close, did I dream it or did I hear that Barnes & Noble is back in the sort of downfall range again, or going through a problem again?
I think their earnings went down again. I think the problem is with Barnes & Noble for a long time. So here's the thing. Okay, because this is how you get people to buy books from your website instead of buying them from Amazon too, is you provide them with some kind of an experience, something they can get that they're not going to get on Amazon. I'm actually working on a really cool website update for the Solitaire series right now for that reason. Because if you don't, it's easy to go to Amazon, click, the book shows up at your door, boom, I'm done. Or it shows up on your Kindle, boom, I'm done. Right? It's almost that easy off of your website. It's only a couple clicks. The book ends up on your Kindle or your Nook or whatever you want, right? But if you give people an experience or some reason to buy books from your website, that's not just, hey, you save $1 from buying it off of Amazon, then you can get people there. So bookstores that are thriving, indie bookstores that are thriving, are providing people that come in with an experience, a reading experience. There's a coffee shop. There's places to read. They've got their shelves arranged in some kind of a creative way that makes people want to shop there and want to look around. Well, Barnes & Noble, Barnes & Noble went into this thing of where, they had CDs and records in one section, at least our local one. And then they had toys in another section. And then there's a big old Starbucks in the middle. And then there's a bunch of notebooks and journals and stuff on one side. Then there's a little section of books. Well, you know what I mean? I'm like, what? This is a bookstore. I come in here to browse books, and I want you to have booksellers too that say, hey, what are you looking for? And I say, well, I like noir and dark stuff. And they have some of Xandri's stuff's right over here. I think you'll like it. Right? And they give me some kind of recommendation. Instead, you can't find an employee. And if you do, they're head down, stocking shelves. And God forbid you're a local author who walks in there and says, hey, man, I'm a local author. I'd be happy to do a signing. You want to carry my books? And they're like, no. Oh, man, well, if you fill out this form in triplicate and put your fingerprint and blood on this particular thing, you might have a snowball's chance to get your book into this bookstore. And I'm like, and you walk into the indie bookstore and you go, hey man, you want these books on consignment? And they're like, you betcha. And then every month or so I get another check from them.
Yep.
I mean, you know what I mean? So anyway, so Barnes and Noble has just never figured it out. I hope that they figure it out. We need big bookstores. I want them to survive. But they tried to transition away to smaller venues, away from the toys and stuff. And I just don't think that they leaned enough into the bookstore experience to really get people to come in. So I think that's what we really need. I mean, it used to be they were in malls, so it was really convenient, Walden Books.
And malls are sort of going out. But it's funny because last night, because my agent had given me an update and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, she's going to find a publisher, right? And I'm like, and it just sort of hit me like, oh my God, I'm going to have to set up book signings and stuff like this. I'm going to have to do all that stuff. I didn't have to do it when I was with Thomas and Mercer because they were so ebook friendly and heavy. And they did it for you and all that sort of stuff. But I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to have to like do all that stuff that I normally hate doing. Right. So like, and I was like kind of stressed. I stressed about it for like a half an hour, and then I'm like, well, don't worry about it. Just do what you do, and remember, it used to be I was 20% indie and 80% traditional. Now it's the opposite. Now 80% indie, 20%
right.
So anyway, I got over it.
Yeah, it's all good. Well, yeah, and I mean, I love doing book signings and stuff like that. I don't like being obligated to do them a certain place. I like setting them up myself, or like doing the one I'm doing in Vegas in November. That's awesome. Going to be a blast, But you know what I'm talking about. But like, we don't like having to do them as part of your job as an author really sucks. And really, they don't move the needle very much as they used to. I mean, you're better off being on podcasts and doing blog tours and stuff like that than you are actually going somewhere and sitting at a little table and selling books. But I mean, hey, it's actually kind of fun. You meet some readers, as long as you don't have to do it too often. I only do a few of those.
I don't even do that
pretty much.
Yeah.
So,
listen, so what do we have going on? You know better than I. Like Troy and I are partnered up on so much stuff.
We need to
give the audience a rundown.
So Writing Into the Dark and Writing for Television are out. Those are our first two book blasts. Books and Bullets is coming out October 15th. Is the next one that's coming out. Then our Kickstarter will start November 7th. The reason it's starting November 7th is I'm doing a book signing in Las Vegas at Reader Nation. November 7th, Paris Hotel Grand Ballroom. James Patterson will be there. So, if you want to stop by and see that amateur, that's fine. But I'll be around the corner from him. You know what I mean? So there'll be a bunch of us signing books there. And we're going to launch the Kickstarter that day at the book signing. Right. So if you're there in person, I'll give you some bonus thing or something if you back the Kickstarter in front of me. So we'll start that. It'll run for 17 days. I decided 17 days. So right before Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll have some of that fulfillment done before Christmas. Is our thought process. Some of it will come after. As far as for the first things, then what's going to happen is that that Kickstarter really is for a subscription for 2026. Vince and I are going to do a total of 9. I didn't tell you, but a total of 9 duets for 2026. We'll have hardcover and softcover compilations. Once we get to 6, so 3 duets, 6 stories, we'll put those into paperback and into hardcover. You can get limited edition signed hardcovers of each one. Those will come out. What our goal is just obviously to ship those by the date of release, rather than so you'll get them like on the release day or shortly before or shortly after that is our goal. Obviously, printing stuff like that might hinder that, but we're going to have all of that all next year. So that Kickstarter is going to be the only way you can get the hardcovers. They'll be released in ebook and paperback to the general public, but a month after the people that are on the Kickstarter get it. But the hardcovers, you will never see them unless you back the Kickstarter. It's the only way you can get them.
Yep.
So
I'm writing.
That's the big thing.
I just want to interject that.
Yeah.
We got 13 days to get 12 days now, really, for the Alligator Alcatraz Kickstarter.
Oh, yes.
We have Troy's adding some stretch goals. I added a stretch goal.
Yeah, I added in one stretch goal. So the first stretch goal is Vince's X-Files that he was talking about, that X-Files novel that he's talking about. And then if we reach that one, then the next one after that is the retail edition of True Pulp, which also comes out the first part of November. So if you didn't get to back our True Pulp Kickstarter, then the True Pulp for you retail folks, that it's got a different cover, but same stories, same great people, same great stories. That will come out the first part of November as well. If you come see me at Reader Nation, I'll have a few copies of those to sign myself. It'll be nearly impossible for you to get one of those signed by every single author that's a part of the anthology. But if you travel to Great Britain and then kind of around the entire United States, you might be able to do it. Best of luck to you. We're not going to do it for you. But anyway, so we'll have those will be coming out as well. That'll come out in paperback and ebook. We may come out with a hardcover at some point, but right now it's just paperback and ebook of the retail edition of True Pulp. So if you guys didn't get a chance to grab that in Kickstarter, it'll have a different cover than the Kickstarter one, but you can grab that. When it comes out
as usual, everybody, there'll be all the information will be below. And all right, brother, thank you. Good seeing you again.
Yeah.
You look.
All right.
Did I tell you look great?
Yep. Oh, thanks, man.
Oh,
hey,
thanks.
you look great.
I've been working on it.
You gotta be feeling good.
Good, I got in there, and I got my
tooth in. Yeah, you got your tooth in today.
I did. I need a haircut, but otherwise, like I feel good. I feel good.
Yeah.
I feel good, Troy.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
Awesome.
We will.
That's important.
We will catch you next time, and I just want to remind you.